How you say something is just as important, if not more important, than what you actually say.
Every culture has things that are considered rude when speaking. So today we're going to talk about 7 rude speaking habits to avoid in American English.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Why Will Friends English. We're so glad you're here. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let's make sure that you're not going to do any of these 7 bad habits.
So the first one is to beat around the bush. This is an idiom, but the idea is that you are not speaking at something directly, but rather you're going around and using circular reasoning or you're using passive aggression to try to get your listener to understand what you're trying to say.
Dropping lots of little hints and suggestions and making offhanded comments and hope that the person will infer what you are actually trying to say. In some cultures, it is rude to speak directly, but Americans tend to prefer, if you want to ask for something, just ask. In our culture and American culture, make sure you are a little bit more direct, but not too direct.
Right, that's point number 2, is that sometimes ESL speakers will say exactly what they mean to say as concisely as they want to say it, but that comes across as incredibly rude sometimes.
It sounds like a command.
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying,
Sit over there.
Okay, that's what you tell a dog. Make sure you use things like please and may I, can I do this? Those are better. So speak directly. Make sure you say your request, but do it in a nice way. Kind of going along with speaking directly is speaking too aggressively or loudly.
Yeah, this kind of has the idea of a person kind of like standing over the other person while they're talking and they're speaking way too loudly, or that maybe they're speaking so aggressively that they're like spitting on that person because with their P's and B's.
In some cultures, that's okay. You do stand close and you talk because it's a very close-knit culture. But in America, we like our space. Like, as close as Josh and I sit, this is because we're married. We don't normally sit this close to our friends.
So the trick is just to try to slow things down a little bit, soften things a little bit so that the other person can understand you still, but don't try to go so much, especially when you're nervous, don't try to speak too loudly or aggressively that it kind of becomes overbearing to your listener.
Rude speaking habit number 4 is saying nothing at all and pretending like you didn't hear them. We know you heard.
A good modern illustration for this is if you've ever tried to talk to a person that has headphones in and you don't know if they're actually listening to anything, but you ask them a question anyway and they don't respond. Are they listening to you or are they not? Either way, it's considered rude because it feels like that person is ignoring you. You need to give some sort of response so that the other person knows that you actually heard what they said.
So a common example where we've had students before say this is when an American says to them very kindly, it's like, hi, how are you? And a lot of our students will start to feel like, oh, they really want to start a conversation. I'm a little nervous. I'm not ready for this. I'm just not ready. And they psych themselves out and they pretend like they're so busy with their phone that they didn't hear them. But really, in American culture, if somebody says, hi, how are you? It's okay to say, I'm fine, thanks. And then move on. So just so that you give some kind of response, because it is exceedingly rude to just completely ignore somebody. And some people do it here in America too, but it is intended to be a rude thing.
Number 5 is to assume. And that means assuming that the other person doesn't know as much as you, or assuming something that you think that they already know. Assuming is really dangerous when you're talking to a person, and Americans consider it very rude to try to say, oh, I know that you know this, so let me say this. You don't know what I know. You don't know what I think.
Assuming, it's a very human thing. Everybody does it in every culture. There's these stereotypes of different peoples and cultures in our minds. And so when you go and you travel there, it's kind of a humbling experience to find out that not everybody lives up to the stereotypes in your mind, or they don't do all the things that you've heard of. And people within the same culture are very different. So if your friend in California does this, well, your friend in Northern California might not. Different people are different. So the best thing you can do is just approach everybody kind of like they're a blank slate and just not assume that they know or don't know something.
Number 6 is staring in conversation. So this isn't just like looking at someone from across the room and just staring, which is also rude, but it's when you're having a conversation and you never break eye contact. A lot of people will say that having good eye contact is a good thing, but if you never break eye contact.
It's very awkward.
It can be very awkward and very rude very quickly. So there's an unwritten rule that you're actually supposed to look away a little bit of the time during the conversation in American English.
This is a little bit of an art, though, because you're not supposed to look away all the time. Not even half the time. You should be looking at the person you're speaking to, for the most part, to engage them and to let them know that you're speaking to them and you're listening to them. But you shouldn't just be like staring them down because it's very uncomfortable. You need to give your conversation partner breaks.
Don't stare too much and don't look away too much.
And honestly, where this falls, I would say probably look away 25% of the time to be safe. 20-25% of the time. If that person seems like they want to engage you more or they're looking at you in the eye more, then it's okay to return that. However, if you are having a job interview or something like this, you definitely need to be looking at the face far more often.
Yeah.
But if you're having a casual conversation with your friends, if you're just staring at them hardcore, it feels like an interrogation. So you definitely don't want to look them in the face way too long.
Yeah, like she said, it's kind of an art form. Different people do it differently, and some contexts determine that you should use more eye contact or less eye contact. Yeah. You kind of have to get a feel for it.
Number 7, and the last one, is standing way too close as you speak. It's very uncomfortable.
So, like we said earlier in this video, Americans have a bubble around us. We like to have space in between us, even with our friends. So when you get too close to an American, you can see this if you want to try this out for yourself. Go up to an American, close the gap, and watch as the American will naturally walk backwards to keep that gap in that place.
Right.
Space is extremely important to Americans.
Definitely. So we want to have space, we want to be able to see your face, but we also want to have breaks while seeing your face. There's an art, it's kind of like a dance. It's the dance of conversation.
Yep.
Guys, with these 7 things, we are saying these things to let you know and to key you in. Some of these you've probably heard before, but don't sweat it. It's okay. You're going to naturally pick up on them as you practice conversations with Americans because that's what humans do.
And one of the best things you can do is to observe. That's what's so great about YouTube, because even if you are in another country far away, you can see real people have a real conversation and see their body language, see how they look at each other so that you can get a better idea of what acceptable body language and speaking habits actually are.
So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.